Welcome back to the second part of our three-part series on the Temple Mount, where ancient truth collides with modern misconceptions, and where the very foundations of faith and history demand our careful scrutiny. In part 1, we journeyed through the biblical origins, Abraham on Moriah, David purchasing the threshing floor in the city of David, as Solomon erected the first temple there amid cedar and gold, the prophet's warnings of judgment, the destruction by Babylon, the modest return under Zerubbabel, and Herod's grand expansion. We established through scripture, archaeology, and logic that the authentic Temple Mount lies within the city of David, not atop the elevated platform crowned today by the Dome of the Rock and Al-Qasim Mosque. Today in part 2, we confront the heart of the controversy head-on, why the traditional Temple Mount cannot be the biblical site, and why the evidence, scriptural, historical, and topographical, and archaeological, irrefutably points to the city of David, over and around the life-giving Gihon Spring. This is no French theory. It is a restoration of forgotten truths obscured by centuries of assumption, imperial overlays, and political realities. We will dissect the misidentification, examine key witnesses like Josephus, and explore the profound implications for rebuilding the temple in our day. So let us begin with topography. The land itself speaks volumes. Jerusalem's ancient core is a narrow southeastern ridge, the city of David descending from higher ground like a finger pointing north. At its base pulses the Gihon Spring, Jerusalem's sole perennial water source, essential for ritual purity, mikvahs, and sacrifices, and the massive rituals described in the Mishnah and the Talmud. Leviticus demands living water, flowing, not stagnant, for cleansing priests and vessels. The Gihon provides this in abundance, channeled through Hezekiah's tunnel, still intact today, and accessed via ancient shafts and pools. Now contrast this with the traditional Temple Mount platform, elevated, arid, and reliant on massive cisterns fed by rainwater or aqueducts from afar. No natural spring exists there. How could the temple function without constant flowing water? The Bible never mentions aqueducts for Solomon's era. The water must be local and living. The city of David fits perfectly. The northern expanse does not. Scripture reinforces this relentlessly. 1 Kings 8:1 and 2 Chronicles 5:2 describe Solomon assembling leaders to bring up the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord out of the city of David, which is Zion. The Ark ascends from Zion, the city of David, to the temple, implying proximity and elevation gain, not a distant northern trek. 2 Chronicles 3:1 places the temple on Mount Moriah, at the place that David had prepared on the threshing floor around the Jebusite. This threshing floor, bought by David, sits atop the ridge near the Gihon. Archaeological layers there reveal Iron Age structures aligning with this 10th century BCE. Nehemiah's rebuilding mentions the water gate near the temple precinct, Nehemiah 3:26, linking to Gihon access. Ezekiel's vision of restorative waters flowing from the temple's threshold evokes a spring-fed source like Gihon, not cisterns. Then enter Josephus, the indispensable first-century eyewitness in Wars of the Jews and Antiquities. He describes the temple as overlooking the lower city, the city of David, with its eastern wall abutting the Kidron Valley. He notes a spring beneath the temple, again the Gihon. Crucially, Josephus details Fortress Antonia, Herod's massive Roman garrison, as a towering structure on a high rock, connected to the temple by 2 aerial bridges, each a stayed about 600 feet long. From these bridges, soldiers could descend rapidly during riots. Antonia overlooked the temple, dominating it for control. The traditional view squeezes a modest Antonia into the northwest corner of today's platform, but Josephus describes a colossal fortress resembling several cities, with vast courts, baths, and space for legions. A 35-acre platform fits a legendary camp like that far better than a sacred precinct. The temple itself was smaller, oriented differently, and lower overlooking the city below, not perched atop it. The current harem-esque sheriff scale and isolation match Antonia's military might, not the biblical temple's humble yet holy integration within David's city. Archaeology seals the case. Extensive digs in the city of David by Mazar, Ronnie Reich, and Eli Shapron, and others uncover ritual baths, seals bearing priestly names from the First Temple period, and structures fitting Solomon's complex near the royal palace. The Ophel area, just north of the Gihon, reveals massive retaining walls and stepped streets, ascending toward what would be the temple precinct. In contrast, the traditional Temple Mount remains largely unexcavated due to political sensitivities. No definitive First or Second Temple remnants have emerged there. Roman-era paving and Herodian stones abound, consistent with fortress expanded by Herod and later Hadrian. A first-century garbage dump in parts of the city of David aligns with the post-destruction use, but the sacred core shows continuity with biblical descriptions. So why the misplacement? History offers clues. After 70 CE's destruction, Titus razed the temple but spared Antonia as a military outpost. Hadrian rebuilt Jerusalem as Aelia Capitolonia, erecting pagan temples atop ruins. Byzantine Christians identified sites loosely. Crusaders fortified the platform. Islamic rule from the 7th century enshrined a dome over what they believed was a sacred rock, perhaps confusing it with the foundation stone tradition. Over time, Mount Moriah shifted north in popular imagination, detached from its biblical tie to David's Zion. Yet ancient sources like Aristeas, 2nd century BCE, described the temple in the city's midst with an abundant spring beneath, the Gihon again. The Talmud locates Shiloh, the pool from Gihon, centrally in the city. Even early pilgrims noted ruins near Siloam waters. This relocation carries staggering implications for rebuilding. If the true Temple Mount is in the city of David, now excavated, accessible, and free of major Islamic structures, prophetic fulfillment becomes feasible without the explosive conflict over the Haram. Ezekiel's envisioned temple, chapters 40 through 48, with its eastward flowing river of life from the threshold, aligns with Gihon's eastern flow into the Kidron. Zechariah 14 promises living waters from Jerusalem, split into Dead Sea and Mediterranean, mirroring a spring-fed source. Rebuilding on the misplaced site risks profane repetition. Honoring the biblical location invites divine alignment. Yet challenges remain. Political sensitivities, even in the city of David, where digs continue amid debate. Some archaeologists resist, clinging to tradition, or citing the platform's Herodian engineering as temple-related. But the weight of evidence, water, scripture, Josephus, topography, and digs tilts decisively south. As we close part 2, ponder this. The temple was never meant to be an isolated monument of power, but God's dwelling amid his people. In the humble ridge where David danced before the ark. The true mount is where covenant began, where prophets wept, and where glory dwelt. In part 3, we will explore the prophetic future, the call to rebuild rightly, and what this means for believers today.